No?
What's that, Tina?
He's talking to me?
There we go. All right.
Oh, I was just wondering if that's going on now.
Where they having a meeting at? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, anyway, Tracy, I remember when we were in Kellier, I think we did that a few times too, because for me, it just didn't make sense to drag you all the way over from Thief River, so this is so slick to have this technology.
It is. Yes. Actually, Kellier was my first district where I did that.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
The Hawkins had to do it
It works.
3 days straight.
If it weren't for this, I'd probably have to show up in person and get everybody else sick today, so.
Yeah.
Training and tell me I can't do it. Your credit card?
But
It's already like that, my dad was on that. Okay.
Now put this away.
definitely, we gotta read a lot of rules, regulations.
Alright, so this is for active to bank account.
So I'm just trying to think of ways for community engagement, and trying to get, everyone to feel that
Sign my
we're
name?
working to help resolve this, violence and this miscommunication, or what's happening with our young kids. A lot of the schools have like a fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth grade together. I noticed. I'm gonna invite the girls to roller skating. All the middle school girls, you guys come to skating. That's another, yep, I forgot to ask Mr. Lutz if, we can get back into Willie roller skating. I know it costs like a couple thousand to rent that Rackus roller skates, but the only people who can rent it is a school organization.
Okay.
So I wanted to see what we could do to get those back in the buildings, like for FIAD and then also for community ed. Who's your town? I really like your new song that you put out.
Oh, thank you.
We need to buy a copy of that.
It's on Apple Music and Spotify.
Oh, is it? Okay, well, I'm getting logged on and I'm gonna get me a copy. Even my little girls, they just love it. So can you play Thomas Sax, because they run games in the hallway, so they won't hear that song when they're playing. That's so cool.
Yeah, my buddy, Brandon Graves is on the chorus with me, and he does the second verse.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
so that's Brandon on there too.
Yeah. I've had him sing like that, Pablo sang on songs before, and so this time, he always messes around with rap and stuff, so I told him I was like, rap a verse sometime, so he came with it.
Well, the kids really like it. I know Nolan had good feedback. He goes,
Like,
boys, come here, you call him in his office and they all they're out just listening.
Yeah, so we made the original one without that intro, and then we were saying,
But
man,
I know
this
I
is
see
cool,
that,
so I was
wrote
like,
that in there,
I was like, let's add that dancement, the 03 intro in there, and then, get the carried on.
They love it. It's 2:00. It looks like we have enough to start.
Oh, and then this calendar is another thing. You guys, we gotta approve this calendar?
It's like a viewing.
Oh,
It would be on the agenda for February to approve.
so you have other samples we can look at besides this one?
Tim, your.
Tim, do we have other samples we can look at?
Other what that we can look at?
Do we have other samples of school calendars that we can look at? Or is this the only one they submitted?
This is the only one that we submitted. Yep.
Did you get the help like from the teachers and?
Yep, we sat down with the bargaining unit, both bargaining units and worked through this. And did this about 2 months ago, and then we presented the first reading to the board yesterday, our last board meeting.
Okay, cause this is the first time I've seen it, so. All right, that's all I wanted to know. So do you have a blank and let me make my own? Oh, no.
I love that, Tina.
Huh?
I love that idea.
So what she's referring to are these items that they have addressed, so you go on. Control the requires district, so we're supposed to prepare our own financial statements.
All right.
Have them audited, well, in order to do that, that means we hire a CPA.
Oh, and that's what you're here for, yeah?
Well, we get them and then they do that, and it's small schools that don't.
Oh, okay.
Most schools in our area have the funding. That's been in this report for, I think, 19 years, and it was in the report before that.
Oh, okay, I'll have to go dig it out.
This one is, so this is about, oh, this was a date issue. So I claimed a reimbursement from the state for some of the ESSER fund, but the date on the invoice was the 14th of July. So it didn't go in last year, it goes in this year. So I had to send them a check back, and they processed it, then I had to reclaim the money again. So that's all taken care of for 14 days. But we bill it dated July 14th, and Michelle had put it in last year. And then the other one was, we actually could not find the detail for the, reserve fund.
School board elect, it's 2:04
And
PM.
it's in the-
Would like to call this
But ain't that
regular
on
school
a
board meeting
computer or something? I mean, like the kids come in and everybody.
opening
Bunch of-
ceremony.
Said anyone. You just have to
Is
look
there a protocol for that, or what have we done in the past for opening ceremony? Oh, Franny used to come over.
Thank you.
Would you just come and say a prayer?
When she's,
Bonnie and Ganu, you walked in just in time.
Oh, I want the old one didn't hurt.
No, we'll get you a new one every time. Some shame on there. Would you mind, Are you sure? That's like.
Oh, I'm sure.
Coffee, tobacco, what you want?
Anyone got a cigarette?
I will.
I do too.
Here's one right here.
Okay, Gordon, I didn't even look you.
Right now?
Yeah, Miigwech.
Can we all just stand in a circle for that?
I'll stand.
Bonjour moni duka. Kingishi kinjina kaza semangi piminik chia. Apagazomata apagazomaka sema. Koing goich ma moni du naganze do dapnigeta sema. Minoa moni du yawa da wain down makwabanong. Shawnong Ninkabinong Kiwaidnong Kai Mani do a Yajikishi Gung Ma Kingai Minoa Nipikang Miss Kwagami Vizaga Iganing Ma. Stood up and gave out the same way when he going in Davos, the young man, Nongo Minoa. He came to Mange, she chicken, she mawanji, the young man, Nongo. She do cargo, what and Kiwega, Pinuchiaka. Miss Way coming a shkoniganing Ma, when Jim Mino Seva, Nigan Kea. Amiga, Nimiguchminum Gakanageko, Gaminigu Wizium, Jimino Sayang Nama, Hani Mama, King, Man, Schnabia King. You Minikwan way we tune in, didn't we? Magani took our money to Tukai, Namiguch. we ask the Creator in all of the four directions, the spirits in the heaven, the earth, and in the water, and the lake here, Red Lake right here, all the spirits except this tobacco, to be with us and help us to know what we need to do so that all of our kids here on the reservation, that everything goes good for them into the future. And so that they're being helped and we're being helped in this meeting here today. Miigwech.
Huh?
You do roll call.
I think,
And I got one.
what is it? I don't know.
Okay.
Jerry, who does roll call?
I do. Yep. Are we starting then?
Yeah.
No?
Silly question, it probably doesn't matter. Do I gotta be sworn in at all?
Oh,
I wasn't
you
here for the first meeting. I don't know if that makes it official.
do.
Great idea, Tom.
Does Tom need to be sworn in?
That, the swearing in is actually just a formality. If you've already filled out the paperwork, you're good to go.
All right, yeah, paperwork's filled out. so.
Yep. Thank you.
All right.
We would still like Tom to get his photo. Tom, still like to take your photo.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
And I would still, you know, it's a memorable thing. Take your photo with you holding your thing.
I'll set one up later. at the-
Yeah. Okay, Miigwech.
Okay, so I call it to order, right?
Roll call.
Roll call?
You do roll.
All right. Nicole Charlie,
Oh, my dear.
Chris Jordan. Slightly. Mike Parrish,
Here.
Robert Pemberton,
Here.
Jack Charlie, Tom Starrett.
Here.
Tim Lutz.
Here.
Okay.
Ani nagaway maganang niji kinuha maganag. Ingawaba may nugam, nagwitchawendam. Enda, magwitchawendam, manugam. Yeah. Good to see you guys out here today.
Yeah.
My name is Nicole Desjardins, and I'm here to help run the school board meeting. So we'll start with item 2B. Do we have any guests today for the school board? No guests? All right, we'll move on to item 3, summary overview of agenda. Superintendent Lutz.
Chi Miigwech, Chair Desjardins. Minagisagut, Nindiniwe Maganadug. Today, we have a very basic agenda, but please remind me before we're done that we have 2 agenda items. When we get to the approval of the agenda, we have 2 additional items to bring forth. But after we get through the summary of and an overview of the agenda and approval of the agenda and public comments, we will move right into the reports section and hear a number of reports for the board. After the reports segment of the board meeting, we will move into the consent agenda. There are 11 items on the consent agenda this board meeting. First of all, we will approve the minutes of the December 21st and January 3rd board meetings. We will then move into accepting a $1,000 donation. The consent agenda also has the authorization for Willie Larson and myself to submit the fiscal year 2024 Impact Aid application. Also part of the consent agenda is the hiring of 1 teacher, the approval of an unpaid leave of absence, the approval of extending another unpaid leave of absence, followed by approving a retirement request and 2 resignations from staff members. We'll also move into additions to the 22-23 substitute list, and we will rescind an employment offer to a staff member. That will then wrap up the consent agenda, those 11 items. We'll then move into action items. Listed in your agenda, there are 5 action items, but as I mentioned earlier, we'll have 2 additional ones to approve when we get to the agenda portion. But for the current action items, the first one is the approval of bills and wires for the month of December totaling $3,435,000 and $159.28, excuse me. We will then accept and approve the 2021-22 financial audit from Brady Martz. We'll enter into, not enter into, but we will have a motion or an action item to allow negotiations with me for the superintendent contract to commence sometime in the near future. The board will then authorize the board chair to begin negotiating with me for that contract. Finally, we will approve the termination of employment with employee 2023-A effective January 18th. We will then wrap up our meeting with miscellaneous, which will be the second reading of the 23-24 school calendar, followed by adjournment. Thank you.
Miigwech. Item 4, school board elect. Is there a motion for approval of agenda for January 18, 2023? Miigwech, Mike.
I'll second.
Motion by Mike, second by Tina.
Madam Chair, here is where I would like to introduce 2 additional agenda items that Dr. Gnu Gishik is bringing forward. They didn't quite make it in time for board book, but the first one is an out-of-state travel request to Wisconsin for staff and students. Dr. Gnu Gishik would like to bring students to the to Lac du Flambeau, Wisconsin for the annual Cultural Winter Olympics. That is one of the agenda items that we would like to add to the agenda today, followed by, in addition to the bylaws of the IPAC committee, and that additional item on the bylaws will be related to compensation for members who attend meetings. So if we add them to the agenda, they would then become items 9F and 9G. So 9F would be the out-of-state travel to Wisconsin. 9G would be the additions to the IPAC bylaws. And perhaps later on during our reports section, when Dr. Gnu Gishik gives his report, he can address both of these a bit more.
Miigwech. All those in favor to approve the agenda for January 18, 2023?
Aye.
Aye. 6, 4, 0 against. Item 5, public comments and delegations. This is a time for members of the public to address the Red Lake School Board about items on the agenda. Do we have anybody today? Gawin, Miigwech, we'll move on. Item 6, reports. Ichi Ogama Deba Jamowin, Superintendent Report.
Miigwech, Chair Desjardins. I have 10 items on this first report. They're all fairly brief. Number 1, I reported last month to the board that on Friday, December 9th, the Red Lake Secondary Complex staff members participated in a workshop with Sun Clans Consulting to learn about ways to develop student peer leaders. The next step in the training will include students as we seek to identify those student peer leaders. That training will be taking place next Monday and Tuesday, January 23rd and 24th. I invite any of you who are interested to participate and observe that training. If you are interested, let me know and I can get you a schedule. Moving on to the next item from Facility Director Chris Borg. He wants us to know that he and the snow removal team are seeing that the new equipment has been working out well this winter. They'll continue to monitor snow removal, egress, and salting throughout the winter. The district HVAC controls project is going well and is 90% complete. The new automation and training will be ready to launch during the first part of February. During winter break, the custodial staff will be working on building maintenance such as painting, filter changes, and deep cleaning. Third item is a report from Panema Elementary. First off, their K-8 enrollment as of the 10th of January is 137 students. The school is in the middle of winter benchmarking with the STAR assessments. School leaders are officially in the planning stages for the 23-24 school year. Part of that planning is attending a meet and greet with the spring 2023 BSU teaching program graduates as part of a district recruitment effort. We're trying to recruit new teachers for next year. Planning discussions for the summer school programming for the 22-23 summer program are also underway. Next, a report from Red Lake Elementary's two principals. Their first item is to let you know that the K-8 enrollment as of the 9th of January was 630 students. The primary or PK to second grade department is happy to have a 6th section now of kindergarten, which has officially begun as of January 17th, just this past week. The school is partnering with Red Lake Chemical Health to bring the prevention education of drugs and alcohol program to the second grade students. The trainers will be visiting each second grade classroom for 30 minutes a week from February 6th through March 16th. Moving on to information about the secondary complex. As of January 11th, the middle school enrollment, grades 6 through 9, is 394 students. Enrollment in grades 10 through 12, 219 students, for a total of 613 students at the secondary complex. At the middle level, STAR testing is going on in reading and math, and in order to benchmark how students are doing compared to the beginning of the school year. At the high school level, Dr. Gnu Gishik, Jesse Smith, and Vicki Graves are working on a Saturday seminar for students in the Ojibwe classes in the high school. This will be set for March at the Tribal College and will offer credit for attendance. The seminar will include immersion of the Ojibwe language along with many issues that Anishinaabe students experience. Both the middle school and the high school are beginning to make plans and develop schedules for the 23-24 school year. Sharon Kingbird and several other staff members are working on a Native American Month curriculum for the 23-24 school year. They'll have several meetings and bring in people with creative ideas. Next, the district's special education child count number as of December 1st, 2022 has risen to 425 students, which is an all-time high for the Red Lake School District, but brings us back in alignment with child count numbers from before the COVID pandemic. The district continues to see the greatest growth in students identified with specific learning disabilities and autism spectrum disorders. Most other disability categories have remained relatively stable over the past 5 years, with speech language disabilities and developmental delays seeing an overall reduction. We anticipate the developmental delays category will regain its numbers over the course of the next 2 years because it was the most significantly impacted disability category during COVID. Students with speech language disabilities are tending to qualify in other areas more often, which results in fewer students with this disability category as a primary disability. Moving on to HR, Ashley's report. Ashley is currently working on the Minnesota Pay Equality Report. The report is due by January 31st and is a method of eliminating discrimination against women who are paid less than men for jobs requiring comparable levels of expertise. The report will be available at the February board meeting. She's also working in conjunction with Rebecca Swanson and Frontline Education to update the application process to offer online application submissions to break down barriers for potential employees. On to our security report. Don Brunn and 6 other staff members attended an Alice Train the Trainer event. So now we have 7 certified trainers for staff active shooter training. Don has traffic officers continuing to monitor the elementary in the mornings during morning student drop-offs due to the reports of parents still not following traffic signage. Moving on to Rebecca Swanson's report, the district's digital communications coordinator. She's been working with each department head to improve website pages and their organization. She has also been working on implementing online job applications for the school district through Frontline Education. Rebecca is also working with the district's administration team to plan the January 31st meet and greet event at BSU that you heard about earlier in order to network with the class of 2023 and 2024 college education department students to begin recruiting more teachers. Finally, item 10, winter sports and activities are now in full swing. Nolan's report discusses that this includes boys and girls basketball teams, as well as the boys and girls basketball feeder programs for grades 3, 4, and 5, which are registered for several tournaments upcoming. Finally, the football program has received a very nice donation toward a new scoreboard, which can be used for both football and baseball, softball games. I will have many more details about that donation, hopefully at the February board meeting after we have actually received that gift from a family in the Twin Cities area. That wraps up my report at this time. Thank you.
Big Red Superintendent Lutz. With that, we will move on to enrollment reports. That you already did that, so we go on to item B. Junia Gitchi Ogama, the Bajamolan Business Manager Report, Willie Larson.
G. Migwitz, Chair Desjardins, the business
Big
manager,
Red.
or is Willie there by chance?
He was just here.
Okay, usually I do the report, but I saw him earlier, so I thought maybe he was around, but I can read them on his behalf, which I usually do. There are 10 items in this report. Willie held bi-weekly check-in meetings with security coordinator, food service coordinator, transportation, building and grounds, digital media, and human resource coordinators. He also completed the end of the year wage reporting. W-2s are now available electronically in Smart ER. Employees can print their own W-2s at this time. Employees who chose not to print their own will receive a paper copy in the mail by January 31st. The ACA Form 1095C for the Affordable Care Act will be available for employees by January 31st. We will have Form 1099s in the mail to applicable individuals also by January 31st. A note that Billie Jean Strong is on an extended leave, planning to return sometime during the middle to the end of February. During her absence, Willie will be processing the semi-monthly payrolls. The 2022 report of outstanding indebtedness has been complete and submitted to the Beltrami County as required by state statute. If you want, you can take a look at the copy of that report, which is in a link just below the link to this set of reports in your board book. Cheyenne May and Willie have completed the student source check for the fiscal year 24 Impact Aid application. The student source check is what we depend upon to determine the amount we receive through Impact Aid. A copy of the application is also included as one of those links in board book. It's also part of the consent agenda items that we will be approving later on during the board meeting. The application must be submitted by January 31st. The property tax levy approved at the December 2022 board meeting has been submitted to the MDE and to Beltrami County. The district is required to bid group health insurance coverage every 2 years. 2023 is the year that we request bids and proposals for the next biennium. The proposal will be advertised and a copy will be sent to the Public Employee Insurance Program, known as PEEP, which is required by state statute. Additionally, the proposal will be sent to the Northwest Service Co-op, Medica, and Blue Cross Blue Shield. Bids will be opened on March 15th, 2023. When bids are opened, statute requires that each bargaining group, Education Minnesota and the Minnesota School Employees Association and Red Lake Principals Association, be invited to the bid opening. And finally, Education Minnesota Red Lake has provided the district with its intent to negotiate. District administration will work with them to establish negotiation dates for later this winter and early spring. A copy of the intent to negotiate form is also attached as one of the links in Board Book. And that wraps up his report. G. Miigwech.
Miigwech. With that being said, we'll move on to item C, Ojibwe, Kendisoan, Wadakad.
Bonjour, I have-
Kendisoan, Wadakad.
So I have two items added onto the agenda here. First one, let's look at out-of-state travel. Requesting approval from the board to take a dozen students and head
That-
out.
This one?
Yep, this one right here with the winter games. Like the Flambeau every year puts on winter games and invites they used to call it the Anishinaabe Olympics, and they invited people from all over Ojibwe country to come and attend. Red Lake attended a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, just before the pandemic, and now we're going back again. We'd like to go out there again, see what they're doing, how they do it, and then come back and just do it ourselves here next time, and invite all the other schools to come and participate in there. What they do is they have stations. Your group, and they do it by grades. Every day. One day it's 7th grade, the next day it's 8th grade, and anyways, they have stations like they'll have archery, and your kids line up and they get in line and they wait their turn and they shoot at a deer with it has a $5 bill on the heart. And if you hit that, you get $5. But you score points and your team can win a trophy. Then you move to the next station, which would be a snowshoe sprinting, or another one. They had snowshoes. You had to go up this big hill and come back down. And then they had gun safety. They had BB gun range, the targets up in the trees and stuff. And they had their police officers, elected flammable police officers, maintaining that station. So there's a number of different stations, pretty fun trophies, and then they have snow snakes out there, and it's really fun outdoor activity. So that's what we're requesting. We have it in our budget to do this with our Indian Ed money. And that's what we request is a permission for that. The second item after we act on that, the second item is and then a bylaw amendment. Now the only thing we're doing is we're adding a article. And it just says that the parent advisory committee can, the parents or students, of the elected voting members, parent, guardian, students, or elders, on that, they can get $100 a month. It takes time, it takes gas. Cass Lake, they pay $150 a month. Other places pay, and our group has been really supportive in showing up, not asking for pay. But I thought, man, they really help out. They're always there for the school here, and they show up for those meetings. It'd be nice to give them a little gas money, a little bit of coin, a little bit of money for their time. And that would be monthly. We meet once a month. We put it in the budget with Minnesota Indian Ed money, and they voted and approved. They approved it their last meeting last Tuesday, and I'm asking you, the board here, to approve this amendment right here. And I set the way, I set the price because the parent advisory committee, we set the budget. So they know how much is in the budget. And so we added this in and made sure we had room in the Minnesota Indian Ed budget. So, I guess let's go back to the first item, requests for out-of-state travel.
Okay,
On that, are you taking just the top three on each one,
Yeah,
or
the
are you
top-
taking all six of them?
The top three. We got a couple of vans that we're renting, so we got room for 12 kids.
How did they pick those top three?
I asked Jesse, who teaches Ojibwe in middle school, who are your top students? Who are your top students that are performing in Ojibwe and show up all the time, attendance. So it's kind of incentive for, positive behavior and just letting him pick. And we're gonna vet it through our, dean of students to make sure we're not missing anything. Maybe this kid is a behavioral issue. It's something we need to be, think about when we go. So it'll be run by our dean of students in the middle school, see if we're overlooking anything. But I know we did send out a survey earlier in the beginning of the year asking students, what is it that you want from the school? And, one of the things that kind of rose up, to the top was that we want incentives for good behavior. Students with bad behavior are getting incentives to not behave bad. But it's ones that, are doing what we're supposed to be doing. We'd like to see some kind of incentive that way. So this is one way that we're doing it.
Is it, are you guys gonna set up like, these competitions so they could practice leading up to the game?
Oh, no, we don't have that set up, but that's a good idea. You go out there, it's pretty fun. All of the kids out there, they're just kind of like line up and shoot the arrow and, we did really good last year.
Is like the snowshoes where they throw the spear down the
Mhm.
path?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be cool to like set that up so they get some practice where they
Yeah.
have hell. they don't
Yeah,
have
so
to-
they'll go and come in last place.
Yeah, you know, I mean, these are type of competitions they're probably not accustomed to, so getting. some
Yeah, that's a
practice.
good idea.
Yeah,
I never thought of it, but that is a good idea, but we do good when we go out there.
Well, if you need help with the equipment and stuff, I could get a hold of, or help. I'm sure you communicate with Dan and him, because he's done all these things with his program, because he's probably got some stuff laying around that we can use possibly.
Okay. Yep, that'd be good.
We'll connect after the meeting about that.
Sounds great.
Do you have your own snow snakes or do you use theirs?
We have, snow snakes, we have some sitting around, but right now we're planning out to go make some. Sharon, our culturalist, Sharon Kingbird and, Rob are getting ready to work with some groups to make some snow snakes. And, when we go out there, they have these really beautiful carved ones they let everybody use. They really put a lot of time. They even do lead inlay on them. And they have snow snakes out there. You go up there to their station, you just grab one of their, really, Cadillacs of snow snakes and grab it, whip it on.
So these 12 that have been chosen, the alternates, the 12 that are chosen, is we taking someone in their place as their alternate, so you will have your 12?
Yeah, so if somebody at the last minute, drops out and says, nah, I changed my mind. We still got room for someone else. We'll call them up and get the parent permission slips from them. Right now, we're calling all of the, ones that, are primary choices. We're calling parents and we're letting them know, hey, we emailed you, we mailed out a permission slip form and we sent it with, your child. And, this is what it's all about. And, we want to know if you guys are going to commit to this or not. And so far, I think we've had 3 contacts, 3 said yes. So, so far we're getting a good response. I'm sure our staff called more than been calling all day long. But, all of the parents that I know so far during the morning, that we were able to contact, they, said yes, definitely. And the kids brought in the permission slip forms.
Can you leave on Monday the 6th or the 5th?
we're gonna leave on the sixth. See, on the sixth, they do fifth graders. And on the seventh, they do, sixth graders. So, no, we're gonna leave on the seventh, I believe. I forgot what I put in here.
Yeah, it says 7.
Yeah, cause we're only bringing seventh and eighth graders. What happened the last time we went, we were there for a long time. And, what would happen is that, the kids got homesick. You know, we had enough, we wanna go home. So we're not gonna do the whole, 6, 7, 8 grade. Yeah, we're just gonna do 7 and 8. And it's easier for the transportation as well.
Okay,
How many, chaperones you going?
We have 3 so far, and we're gonna check to see if there's any other, student needs, if there's any other needs that they have, like, where they need, apparel with them, then we'll find that out.
Okay. okay, meet Rich Gnu. Is there any other questions, school board elect or Mr. Gnu?
Well, when is this meeting for this advisory committee? If it's been adopted
Is it the
next week, it's already.
Yeah,
adopted
I
next week.
should have wrote that in there, it was last Tuesday.
the second Tuesday of the month then?
Yep, every second Tuesday of the month, I should have wrote in there, the date from last Tuesday. And then on the bottom part, we'll write in, today's date if it's approved. That's the next item on the agenda. So, right now, we need a motion for approval also.
Okay, I think that is added to our consent agenda, so we could. Is that correct, Superintendent Lutz? We could just add, that's already included, so when we approve the consent agenda, that will be
It's already,
in there.
it's already listed on the already added.
Yep,
Oh,
so,
okay, good.
so it'll be, once we motion to do it, it's already included with the rest of this.
Okay, so then my next question would be, is the bylaw approval for the bylaw amendments also on the consent?
That is also added to the consent agenda.
Okay, are there any questions that you have any more questions that you have on the, amendment to the American Indian Parent Advisory Committee?
Yep, that is item 9F and 9G. So they've been added.
And actually, Madam Chair, the,
Looks like we
Nines
do
are
have the
actually-
motion on that separately.
yep, they are actually action items, so we can get to them not as part of the consent agenda, but they'll be very quick to just add them separately to the end of the action items.
Yes,
We'll get to.
so they will be, they're on item 9, so that's after we do the consent agenda.
Okay.
Appreciate your time, be quick. Okay, with that being said, we're gonna move on to item 7.
Big Witch, Madam Chair,
Consent.
the,
Yeah.
and I'll just point out, I wanted to, normally we usually approve all these at one time, which is the purpose of a consent agenda, but I wanted to highlight one item, and that's 7B. And that was the $1,000 donation from, I think he pronounces his name Thibodeau, Matthew Thibodeau. He's from Duluth.
Okay,
And if you know, in his, he wrote a nice note along with his check, and he wrote it out to Nolan, stating that the article that the Star Tribune came out about Nolan and the football team was so moving to him that he, at the end of the article, he wanted to up and move to Red Lake, because he thought it just sounded like such a nice community of support for families and for students. And then he wrote that in his years as a coach and a mentor for young people, he often found that food and snacks brought people together and helped teams become stronger and build relationships. So the purpose of this $1,000 donation is for food, for snacks and lunches, evening meals for the team. And then he finished off by saying, inviting Nolan that anytime they happen to be in Duluth as a team, they should reach out to him and he will take the whole team out to dinner. So I just wanted to highlight that before we move on to accept the entire consent agenda. Miigwech.
The weight class? Oh, no, they didn't go to Fond du Lac. This gentleman is just, he read the article and he's reaching out. I want to make a donation, and if you're ever in my area, I want to extend and take you and the team out for dinner. I don't know if Nolan and them will be in that area anytime soon. The football team is what I know he's referring to. Yeah, this is the football. Yeah, so there's, nice people writing letters to the athletic director on the Star Tribune article, and I'm excited to hear the bigger donation that's coming for the school district and the kids.
Oh, I thought I read something in here about a scoreboard.
Yes.
Is that part of that? or-
It will be listed in the next month's
Oh,
meeting.
okay.
No, this
That
is not a
nothing to
part.
do with it.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is separate, and there's also some smaller ones that I've seen. Maybe we should ask the athletic directors to share all his cards that he has received from communities on the Star Tribune article. About a dozen cards, people have reached out to him. And with, congratulating and admiring the article and, just supporting our community of Red Lake. So maybe that's something we could ask Nolan to Xerox his cards and share with the school board, all the well wishes that were sent to our community and kids. Miigwech.
So with that, I
Yes.
present to you the consent agenda for your approval. Thank you.
Miigwech, Superintendent Wicks. At this time, school board-elect, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion.
Miigwech, Rob. School board-elect, do I have a second motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
Miigwech, Tom. Motion by Rob, second by Tom. With that being said, school board-elect, we will move on to section 8, closed session if necessary.
Oh,
you got one more.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm learning, guys. Okay, school board-elect, can I take a vote on that motion? All those in favor, raise your hand, please. All right, 6 for and none against. Okay, now we'll move on to item 8. Closed session if necessary. Is there anybody here today? Superintendent Wicks?
Thank you. Madam Chair, there should be no reason for a closed session today. There will probably be the need in the next couple of months as we begin to enter into negotiations with the bargaining units, but at this time, there should be no necessary reason today.
Miigwech.
I'd like to have a closed session.
You would like to have a closed session? Okay, Superintendent Lentz, we have a request by school board member, Doug DeJarle for a closed session.
We
Is,
have to have a legitimate and legal reason for a closed session, and that usually has to do with negotiations with bargaining units or land or other purchases, and a couple other rare reasons. What would be the reason for this closed session?
On C, who made this decision, or C and D?
C and D on 7 or?
Oh. 9C and 9D?
On C and D.
Oh, 9C, enter into negotiation with superintendent, the school board chair, myself. I directed the business manager to add this to agenda. And D, I myself had asked this, superintendent and the superintendent to authorize the school board chair to negotiate a contract with Superintendent Lutz for 1 more year.
We're actually not doing the negotiations at this time. That'll come down the road.
Yep, and this is just to enter into negotiations to begin the process.
Thought we were gonna have a search for a superintendent.
Yes, there is a search.
They
Next,
still owe us to the MSBA since we didn't hire last time.
yes, I've been in conversation with Gary Lee of MSBA, and I asked him what we could do, and he said that we could go into negotiation with the current superintendent to extend his contract for 1 more year. And they would still be on board to help us with superintendent search, which would be next summer. If we don't find one, yes,
On the nationwide search,
yes. We still, as far as I believe, we are still under contract with MSBA. And
Yeah,
Gary was pretty happy to hear that we were gonna enter into a negotiation with the superintendent Lutz for 1 more year.
So I can
So that
add
would
to
take
that.
us,
I can add to that the purpose of these negotiations is to come up with a new contract between the board and myself. Failing that, if for some reason that doesn't work, and I don't know why it wouldn't, then we would go back to MSBA and ask them to conduct a search. So that would be the order.
you're saying that we can't do it this year?
we can,
You can,
but
if you
we
decide
can
that you would
also
rather do
ask
that.
to extend for 1 more year.
But why do we need that if we're gonna hire one this year? I mean, why do we need a negotiating with
I
him?
think they should be gonna flip flop instead of making this decision here and then going to the alternative. I think the first one should be the MSBA nationwide search.
Yeah,
That's the way it usually goes, you know, I don't know.
It's up,
On all this.
it's up to you. Yep.
I mean, we can still negotiate, but it doesn't have to be right now. I mean, you know, if we can't find anybody by what,
His contract ends
March?
this year.
Like end of June,
yeah,
but we need
Well,
to get going on this because last time we waited till the last
Yeah.
minute, you know, and we should get the ball rolling now.
Yep, that's
To have
why.
more options.
That's why I decided to enter negotiation with Superintendent Lutz, so we can discuss to keep him for another year.
we can vote on that when we get to it then.
And we sure can, you know, but this is just saying,
That clears
You know,
it up somewhat.
do we give the board chair and Superintendent Lutz to move forward with negotiations? And that's
So
up
what
to-
happens then, say you did do next year and we didn't find a superintendent? And you gave us your 2 years, so then what happens? If nobody made it to superintendent, got the job?
Then what might happen would be MSBA and Gary Lee would try to find another interim perhaps, or twist my arm to come in for a 3rd year, which is why I have a cast on right now. So,
But now is the time that we need to move on our superintendent. If we're gonna enter negotiations with him, or if we're gonna move forward with MSBA. So that's why I added it to the, agenda. So, and we can, you know, motion on that, or. But we need to move now for a superintendent, and if he's willing to talk with us on that, then I'm willing to talk with him on, you know, what we could do to keep him here. So, with that being said, we are on item 9A. We need to approve the bills and wires for the month of December 2022. School board elect, do we have a motion to approve the list of bills?
I'll move.
Which, Mike? Do we have a second, school board elect?
That's it.
Which? Doug? All those in favor, please raise your hand. 6. Okay. With that, we will move on to item B. Accept and approve the 2021-22 financial audit from Brady Martz. School board elect, do we have a motion to approve the 2021-22 financial audit?
I have a
Madam
question.
Chair?
Have we?
Yes,
Have we seen the audit report?
it should be in your
Okay.
school board packet.
And Madam Chair, before we approve, we have
Sure.
Tracy Bruggeman from the auditor's office to present the audit to us. And then after that, we can
Great.
ask her any questions if you'd like.
Which.
So thank you, Tracy. Go ahead.
Thank you. Good afternoon. First, I'd like to say thank you for hiring Brady Martz. And secondly, I'd like to thank your staff for their assistance during our audit. I do believe you should have a copy of the report. It'd be a blue book. It says Brady Martz on it, audited financial statements. On page 2 is the independent auditor's report. The district received an unmodified opinion, which is the same opinion the district received in the prior year. In our opinion, the financial statements present fairly in all material respects, the financial position and the changes in financial position in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. On page 10 is the summary of the general fund's revenues and expenses compared to the prior year. The general fund revenue increased $419,658. The general fund expense increased $4,432,365. On page 19 is the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. The general fund balance decreased $579,620, and the fund balance at the end of the year was $25,938,705. On page 55 is the detail of the non-major governmental funds. The food service fund balance decreased $187,310, and the fund balance at the end of the year was $6,577. The community service fund balance increased $36,747, and the fund balance at the end of the year was $203,220. The building fund balance increased $1 and ended the year at $1,143. And the debt service fund balance increased $19,171, and the fund balance at the end of the year was $114,640. On page 56 is the schedule of changes in fund balance. And we'll review the balance at the end of the year for the general fund. Your non-spendable fund balance ended the year at $35,776. Restricted fund balances for student activity funds ended the year at $56,663. Your scholarship fund balance was $2,261. Staff development fund balance ended the year at 66,219. Your operating capital fund balance ended the year at 1,050,759. Learning and development fund balance was 0. State approved alternative program fund balance ended the year at 543,457. Gifted and talented fund balance ended the year at 58,085. Achievement and integration fund balance at the end of the year was 0. Basic skills extended time fund balance was 385,165. LTFM fund balance 37,685. Medical assistance fund balance was 20,797. Impact aid fund balance 20,319. And your unassigned fund balance 23,661,519. On page 57 is our report on Minnesota legal compliance, and the results of our test disclosed no findings. On page 58 is our report on internal control over financial reporting and compliance and other matters based on an audit of the financial statements performed in accordance with the government auditing standards. We've reported one finding, and the finding has been reported in the prior year. The finding is the district has elected to have the auditors assist with the preparation of the financial statements for efficiency. And we'd recommend that the district consider the additional risk of having auditors assist with the preparation of the financial statements. And as a compensating control, the district should establish an internal control policy to document the annual review of the financial statements. On page 60 is our report on compliance for each major federal program and internal control over compliance required by the uniform guidance. This year, we audited 3 programs: the Child Nutrition Cluster, Education Stabilization, and Title I. In our opinion, the district complied in all material respects with the types of compliance requirements that could have a direct and material effect on the major programs. We did identify one instance of non-compliance. We identified 2. Finding 2, we noted one transaction in our sample was a fiscal year 23 expenditure. We'd recommend that the district report expenditures in the current period and consider to implement a review process to ensure that expenditures are reported in the correct period. And the second finding number 3, we noted that the district misstated the daily meal counts on the monthly reports submitted for reimbursement. We'd recommend that the district should review their policies and procedures for submitting meal counts for reimbursements. In addition to the report, we've also issued a separate letter just as an opportunity for strengthening some internal controls. The first one is related to your final budget. The budget that was approved by the board did not match the final budget that was set aside in the financial statement software. We'd recommend that the budgets approved by the Board of Education be reconciled to the budgets reported in the district's financial statement software. And then the second item is related to test security measures. We noted that one individual makes all changes to the district's assessment system security procedures. And we'd recommend that someone review the procedures manual to ensure all recommendations from MDE have been included. And then just one additional item, and that is the district's fund balance policy is to maintain a minimum unassigned general fund balance of 3 months of operating expenditures. So 3 months of your operating expenditures is approximately 9,600,000. And the district's current unassigned general fund balance is 23,661,519. So as of June 30th, 2022, the district has met the fund balance policy. Any questions?
I have a question on, page 67, context, where transactions for 247,713, which was, returned to the state of Minnesota Department of Education. What did that entail?
So that was it was a timing issue. It was reported in your fiscal year 22 as an expenditure, but had not been received until fiscal year 23. So the drawdown had to be returned, and then I do believe you still have a grant period open in fiscal year 23. So I would expect you would probably draw it in fiscal year 23, but I haven't looked at that year yet. But it was not eligible in the fiscal year 22.
So it was drawn down too soon. And then we have to take it back. So now that we're in FY 23, which starts the next school year, we could draw it down.
Correct.
Yeah, there's a lot of money holding in the bank.
You mentioned something about, internal control and the district had to create a policy for this. Would that be the school board creating this policy, or what's the procedure for that if we were to move forward with that?
I would say I think all policies, normally the school board does approve those.
School board elect, is there any more questions for Brady Martz?
On this, where it says, is there is an increased risk of unallowable costs being charged to grants, does that mean that we're not following what the grants are telling us to do? Is that what that means?
So I think since we did identify a transaction that was reported in the wrong period, I think our recommendation is that you look at a process to ensure that the expenditures are in the correct period when you're drawing down the funds.
Okay, school board elect, do we have a motion to approve the 2021-22 financial audit from Brady Martz? Which Mike motions to approve.
second it.
Which Rob, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, okay, we have, excuse me, 5, 4, and 1 abstain. Okay, with that, we were gonna move on to item C. Enter into negotiation with Tim Lutz for the 2023-24 superintendent contract.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And before we go into that, I would like to thank Tracy for her time with us today and to let her know that she can sign off if you'd like, unless you want to stick around. So thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy.
Which, Tracy?
Okay, so yes, this is something that you had placed onto the agenda, Madam Chair, after visiting with Gary Lee and I think with Willie possibly too. So it basically a motion to agree to go into eventual negotiations for the next school year with me. And the next motion will be to authorize the chair to negotiate.
So item C, do we have anybody, any motions, school board elect, to go into negotiations with Tim Lutz for the superintendent contract, 2022-23-24 school year?
I'll motion.
Meekwich, Tom motions,
Board meeting.
second by Tina, Meekwich, Tina. All those in favor, please raise your hand. 4. And do you oppose, Mike, or you abstain? All those who oppose and all those who abstain? 2 abstain. You oppose?
Yeah.
Okay, so 4, 1 no, and 1 abstain.
And he's the no. Yeah,
Mike,
Mike is the
and, yep, and Jack is abstaining.
Change mine to a no, huh?
Okay, so 2 no and 4 yes.
I just thought it was too premature to do that, and we don't know what MSBA has to give us yet on a new superintendent. I mean, I just my opinion.
We direct MSBA. They don't direct us.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're telling us to go into negotiations with the superintendent there before they've even done anything. And they owe us. I mean, they owe us yet.
Okay.
I can explain this, that they do recognize that they owe us, but Gary Lee feels that it would be best for the sake of longevity and consistency to go one more year. So he had asked if I would consider staying on. He was the one who reached out for me to fill in as an interim, and he had asked if I would fill in for another year, and I agreed to do that if that was what the board wanted. So that is what he is hoping. But if the board is not interested in doing that, we can go to MSBA and ask them to conduct a search, and then they may find someone. If they don't find someone, then they can look for another.
I think the board should be making this decision instead of Willie or Gary Lee or anything, you know, that's what it sounds like, it's, you call it, where they go around you. That's what I feel is going on here.
No, nobody is going around the board. Willie and Gary, they're not going around. It's their recommendation, and they're hoping that someone can step in. And after the last month's board meeting, it seemed like there was a consensus to do that. But there's certainly, we can keep with the vote of 4-2, and then ask MSBA if they're willing to step up and do a search. Up to the
I
board.
mean, the way I understood it was last year when we didn't find a superintendent, and that's why we wanted the interim. They said they would come back, we'd do it earlier this time in January. And they would get us, another list. You know,
Yep,
for
and-
those to interview and all that, and it's January, I mean, we got 6 months.
Mhm. And there
And,
were,
you know, I don't get it. I mean, so you mean they won't do anything for the next 6 months then? They'll just wait until next year to start looking again? I mean,
If we do.
and they
do
owe
a
us,
contract with
you know.
superintendents, then yes, they will wait until next year.
and they will start early next year. The 3 or 4 school districts that needed to find an interim because there was such a shortage of superintendents last year, 3 of those 4 are already open again, and they're looking. The 4th one would be Red Lake, so if you would like, we can certainly have them start looking again, but Gary Lee is pretty confident in believing that it will be very hard to find anyone, even at this early a date for many, many school districts. So he had asked the board to consider keeping me on for another year. But again, if you would rather not do that and do a search instead, that is the decision the board can make.
Can we negotiate with Tim and search?
We will be searching, I believe, next year, right, Tim?
Mhm.
So if we negotiate with Tim now, then that will keep him on for another school year. Then
And
next,
then we could look all year then for one?
yep, then we'll be on that pool of, as well as the other districts looking.
I read somewhere where there's no
There's another
shortage.
opening somewhere, yes.
Super.
So MSP don't have anybody for us to look at now?
Not necessarily, and that's why they recommended if we could ask Woods for one more year. So that's why I asked the business manager and superintendent to add it on the next agenda to consider him for one more year. I got to speak with Gary in person last week, and I also spoke with him on the telephone. And he recommended, I've seen him at all the trainings, you know, the late night sessions, he was still there. He was there at the 8 o'clock session, so he was everywhere last week. So he is the face of MSBA, and so he knows there is a shortage of superintendent. But, so,
Seems like if we go with Tim, maybe having another year of time going by, more opportunity will present itself. Cause to me, it sounds like you mentioned that the places where there was interns, there are already open seats again. So not only are these spots not being filled, there's a shortage of superintendents available as is.
Exactly.
You know, even at how late we got everything going last year, we still had 5, 6 candidates, didn't we? Yeah, we had 5, 6 we interviewed.
We just couldn't agree on one.
Well, we did agree on, Mrs. Cole. Yeah. It was, extenuating circumstances that, she didn't. What it was she couldn't find a place to stay.
Yeah.
You know, by the time 2, 3 days later, when she did find a place, the offer was rescinded from her. That, you know, we kind of cut her own throat on that one. She was willing to come up here, and she had a lot of experience working in Arizona schools with native students. That's what I recall anyway.
do you have direct contact with her to see if
Jamie
she's,
Cole?
see if you can get her?
I don't know, I think she'd be kind of, not interested anymore, I think.
Okay, so with that being said, school board elect, we
I'm
will
not saying
move
that
on.
we should go look for her again, you know, I'm just saying that we should open that up. Regardless of what Gary Lee's telling us, or what, regardless of what Willie or business manager or whoever's telling us what to do. We're the school board, we're the ones that are supposed to make the decision, not someone that's not on the school board. That's all I'm saying about this.
And I agree, and I understand what you're saying. But it's important to have a superintendent, on board. And we can either vote today to move forward or to not. So with that being said, we're gonna move on to item D. Authorize board chair to negotiate with superintendent contract with Tim Lutz for the 2023-24 school year. School board elect, do we have a motion to authorize board chair to negotiate with Superintendent Lutz for the 2023-24 school year?
I'll motion.
Which Tom motions to approve? Do we have a second, school board elect?
So if we do keep them on, can we start as early as September to start looking for someone?
I think it's
They're supposed to
January.
start, they're supposed to
6
start now,
months.
No,
you know,
but now is for next year though,
yeah, now would be for
Next
this
school year.
contract. ends
For
on the
July
30th.
23.
Yes, usually January is the time. If you start in September, that's when a lot of superintendents have just started and are just in a couple of months into their contract, and it probably you wouldn't get many applicants because it wouldn't look good if the superintendent in September is already applying to go somewhere else. But by January, that's usually the traditional time.
So did Gary Lee open it now so people can apply now or what's the deal there?
I spoke with Gary Lee on the phone. I believe it was Friday, January 6th. And we discussed, adding the superintendent negotiation to the next meeting, next agenda. I did see him while I was at MSBA last week. We didn't discuss anything about superintendent search. But I do know that it is a process and there is a shortage of superintendents. So from this point on, we get our agendas prior to the meeting. If you have questions, you should call Gary Lee and come to the meeting prepared. School board elect, do we have a second to authorize board chair to negotiate the 2023-24 superintendent contract with Tim Boots?
I think I'm gonna, because there's such a shortage of superintendents all over that. I really think we're gonna have a hard time finding. Is there anybody in-house that's close to getting a superintendent license? That works in the school district? Like one of the principals or?
I got Amanda Norman at it. You can do as it, you have your license?
Almost. There's Amanda in elementary, and then there's Dustin.
Thank you for sharing that.
So 3 of you is almost in district. Dustin, Amanda, and me.
I just got a couple more assignments.
We have it before the 23-24 school year.
Okay, school board elect, we're gonna move on. Do we have a second to authorize board chair to negotiate the 2023-24 superintendent contract with Tim Lutz?
Yeah, second.
She had a question, so I'm just
Oh.
following up.
Okay. You're right.
Mhm. Did you decide if you were going to go with that or?
So if we take them this year and then the superintendents that we have in-house right now would be able to apply? I mean, or even if they don't have their license, can they still apply if they don't have their license?
They can apply
I
if
don't think so.
if they can convince, the board that that they will have their license by July 1st.
That where that pending licensure comes in, and we run into that quite a few times.
Well,
Yeah, cause remember when, Jean Whitefeather, I mean, before, she was a principal, they had her go through school to get her license and she got it like, I mean, she was just appointed the principal position at the elementary, but I know she had at least 1 or 2 years to get her license. So she wasn't really a licensed
she was
principal, you know what I mean?
yeah,
He was working under Bernice Pemberton's license. They had hired Bernice
Yeah.
as a assistant principal. But when Bernice found out she was working under her license,
yeah.
Oh,
That must have been when I was a student in elementary.
Yep.
Okay, school board elect, let's move on. Do we have a second motion to authorize the board chair to negotiate the 2023-24 superintendent contract with Tim Lutz?
are we able to like table this until we talk to the 3 people that see when they get their license? Can we table it till the next meeting and then decide on that?
well, 2 of them already have their license.
Yeah,
And Dustin.
and they already know that they put their name in for us to interview them, or what it seems like it's just going,
That was last year. and
yeah.
not this one.
Did we open it outside already, Sherry?
So what I would recommend the school board elect to do is review your agenda before the meeting and contact the appropriate people for your questions that you have today regarding this superintendent search. So you have time to contact the MSBA and ask these questions that are very important to you. So we're ready for our agenda.
And to answer the question that was posed a minute ago, we can certainly table this, absolutely.
We've already voted, yes on the negotiations, but so the one we're on now is to authorize the board chair to negotiate. So what's the difference between those two so we voted yes to negotiate this contract. Now the one we're on is the board chair, so that just means specifically, the board chair would negotiate.
Oh, that's right. All right, I'll second it.
Okay, we have a second by
Made it
Tina.
simple.
Uh,
All right.
So therefore, all those in favor, please raise your hand.
Okay, that's for you to negotiate.
Negotiate, yes.
Oh, okay.
So, because we already voted on the other, so that is 3 in favor. All those who oppose, please raise your hand. 3 oppose.
So that means where we stand now is you've allowed, open the door for negotiations, but not for the negotiations to start. So basically, you've tabled the process moving forward. So I think next steps would be to reach out to Gary Lee again, or to reach out to these other candidates you were talking about and see if they're interested in applying again for next year.
But being that we're 3-3 and we're a tie, doesn't Chris come in then and break that tie?
But he's absent today.
Yep. So
So is he on the Zoom?
Yeah.
No, he's not on the Zoom. So the board approved to negotiate with Tim Lutz, but the board did not approve the board chair to negotiate. So therefore,
This is table.
it's tabled.
So Chris gets here then? Probably, huh?
I don't know, I never said one. But, I mean, my reasoning is that I understood anyway, that MSBA was supposed to come in this month, January, right away, right after the organizational. And they were supposed to get the ball rolling, on, getting candidates or however they do it. And it had no cost to us because we already paid them last year. And, that was my understanding of why can't they do it now? Why aren't they doing it? Why do they want to wait a year?
So my understanding is
They already
MSBA, Gary Lee, contacted the board chair and asked if we would go into negotiations with Tim Lutz for one more year. So I feel the MSBA did do action on moving forward on what to do this year. And I would recommend the school board elect to review the agenda and go over the items and come up with your questions before the scheduled regular school board meeting. So we have all of our information in hand before.
I would think that, in a nutshell, here's how I can summarize it. The many school districts struggle because they have superintendents who come and go quickly, and there's not a lot of consistency. And even though you did have my predecessor for about 5 years and someone before her for about 5 or 6 years, this is a single year right now. And Gary Lee, according to what he told me, he has heard that things have been going well this year. He has heard that I enjoy working here. He has heard that people enjoy working with me. He has not heard any complaints. So he thought, well, we have a shortage still. If the board wants to continue with me, that's a great solution. Otherwise, they're happy to come in and look for a new person to start over next year. But a lot of districts, it really is helpful when one superintendent comes in and we get programs going and we get initiatives started, and then the superintendent leaves and somebody new comes in, and that starts all over again. So he is not dictating anything. He is just saying, if the board is interested in another year, if they've heard not too many bad things about their superintendent, maybe they'd like to re-up the contract. And that would be an easy and quick solution. Then that's what the board could do. But he's not dictating to the board. You guys have the final say. So basically, you've said you would rather take a look and see what they can provide for next year. So, and that's totally fine. So it's basically tabled, and we can look next month at having another discussion and see where we're at with the school board and the MSBA.
Yes, that's correct. Thank you, Mr. Lutz. And the reason I went with Gary Lee's suggestion is because I hear good things about Superintendent Lutz, and he is only here for 1 year. And I do hear good things that he's always in the hallway and out being visible. So that's why I agreed to add these to the agenda. So no, I do not let anybody dictate me in any way or anything, but that was my decision to add Superintendent Lutz, is because I've heard good things.
I think with that, we probably
So-
should. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so with that being said, I guess we table that part to negotiate, and we're gonna move forward to item E.
So does
Thank you.
that mean that?
Okay,
Yeah,
go ahead,
yeah,
Tina.
let's do that. Just go to E. So I was gonna say, if we already approved C, then.
Yep, we've already approved
yeah,
C, so
So we should just, all we needed to do was approve you.
to start the negotiation.
So,
And that's why I'm directing the school board to study their agenda prior to coming to the meeting, so you're ready.
okay,
Okay. So Mr. Lutz, I believe we're gonna move on to item E.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this is similar to last month. We had a couple of these motions. We only have one today, but this is to approve the termination of an employee. And we cannot, because this is a public matter, we cannot state the name of this employee. But in your board book, it does explain the reasons for the termination of this individual. So I present to you a motion for a motion and a second to approve the termination of employee 2023A. Thank you.
Okay, school board elect, do we have a motion? Item E.
I'll move.
Moved by Mike, second by Tina. All those in favor? Item E. Aye. 5-4, 1 abstain. Okay, school board elect, we're gonna move on to item 10, miscellaneous. The second reading of the 2023-24 school calendar.
9F and 9G.
There was additions.
Yeah.
To the action, to
Yep,
the
thank you. Thank you for catching that.
9F. Out-of-state travel. To Lac du Flambeau, Wisconsin. School board elect, do we have a motion to approve?
I'll motion.
Meegwich, motion by Tom. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Rob. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Looks like 6-4. Item 9G. The bylaws of the IPAC committee, which is related to compensation to members who are attending. Do we have a motion to approve? Doug, motions to approve. Do we have a second?
I don't.
And second by Tina to approve. All those in favor? Aye.
All right.
6-4. All right, with that being said, we'll move on to item 10, miscellaneous. A
Thank you,
second
Madam Chair.
reading of the two. Okay, go ahead, Superintendent Lutz.
My apologies, Madam Chair. Jumped in too soon there, but you're right. This is the second reading of the 23-24 school calendar. And just a quick rundown, the biggest change, this is very similar to last year's calendar. Starting right after Labor Day in September with classes and going through towards the end of May with students. One of the biggest changes is that we are shortening the Christmas and New Year's holiday break a little bit. For the last couple of years, we have had, if you look at in your board book, if you look at December, if we were to do the same exact thing next year, we would have Monday the 18th and the 19th and the 20th off for a full 2 weeks off. But it is our belief that so many days away from school is really rough on kids. So as we were visiting with members of the bargaining units, we all came to the agreement that we really could start having December 21st be the first day of holiday. And then something else we wanted to look at is to take a look at some of the days that students are often gone a lot, and perhaps we could turn those into days when we don't have school anyway. And we looked into March, and March 15th and March 22nd are state tournaments in basketball. And a lot of students, a lot of families want to go down to the cities to participate in those tournaments, even if we aren't in the tournaments as a team. So we've taken those days off, and we have a staff development day on November 1st. But for the most part, this is very similar to last year. It's just that we've spread out some of those extra days off, not taking them all during the Christmas holiday break.
Okay, thank you for your time. All right, thank you for that, Superintendent Lutz. I had a question. What would be our Monday?
Can change it.
Could we go to, starting at a regular time on Monday, or, what is the process? Why did we start late on Mondays?
We we start late on Mondays because we don't have very many days that are staff development days. And one of the things schools struggle with is time for staff development, for teachers to work together, to learn, to become better. So for the last several years, we've had these late starts on Mondays, basically 2 hours late. Next year, we've shortened that so they're only 90 minutes. But we feel that we can still get a lot of work done during those 90 minutes. But we really do need that time because we're working on and learning how to use programs like ReadWrite, or the program that's like ReadWrite for math, and ways to implement them. And when you have programs like that, you have to implement them with fidelity and to do a good job and to make sure everyone's doing it right and consistently. And that is one of the reasons why ReadWrite is going so well. The ReadWrite program is seeing great results with students improving their reading because teachers have this chance to work together on Monday mornings. But we are shortening it so that it's only 90 minutes now instead of 2 years.
All right, me, which for that superintendent,
I got a question first. They do that on Mondays and they get 90 minutes. And we're counting that as a workshop day. Does that take minutes time away from the kids' learning time then?
It does take some minutes away,
Because I was adding that up.
but we still do have enough minutes to meet the state regulations and laws. And what I would say is what that does is, even though it's fewer minutes, those minutes are used better because teachers learn more and are better organized and better prepared to start the week each week, and they learn more about the programs that we are implementing. So while it takes away some minutes, it makes those remaining minutes even better because teachers are able to use that time for staff development. And that staff development is a very important part of the school year for kids and for teachers. But we're building in a lot of extra cushion by shortening it by 30 minutes a week every Monday.
Superintendent Lutz, before we adjourn today, I wanted to bring up that I attended this workshop at MSBA called Project 11. I will send you the information on email, and it's regarding, mental health awareness. It has curriculum for our students, I believe K through 12, and it's free. So I just want to share that this is something that I hope this district would accept.
Yeah, we can look into that.
I know they send us a lot of books, and this is out of Winnipeg and War Road. So I'm pretty excited to share Project 11 and the Max Foundation with the Red Lake School District. It's curriculum on mental health awareness.
Thank you.
And it's free.
Good price.
So I just wanted to bring that up, and I'll send you that email and see if we can look into that and see if the school would be interested in that.
That sounds good.
Sorry, that was out of the park. It wasn't on the agenda, but I just wanted to bring up that opportunity. Okay, school board elect, is there anything else we have today? How about you, Mr. Superintendent Lutz?
I have nothing else either at this time. Which?
With that being said, we're going to move on to item 11, adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Meegwich, Rob, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Tina. All those in favor? 4 and none against. The meeting is adjourned today at 3:41.
What time do you call it to order?
We called it to order at 2:04. I'm so sorry. Because we had Willie in here. 2:04 p.m. Next time, 2 o'clock. All right, Meegwich. I think that went well. We got this, Uber to luck. Okay.
Sherry,
Yeah.
give you all these,
Oh, that's okay. What are you doing over there, Jack, and over the docking to them?